Foundation for Arable Research is the sector organisation that represents the arable farmers of New Zealand. Our main aim is to provide the research that growers need to continue to be sustainable and profitable as an industry. We have approximately 2,300 growers across New Zealand, and we have 3 research sites, one in the Waikato, one here in Lincoln where we are today, and one in Chertsey, just south of the Rakaia River in the South Island. The objectives of the foundation, as I said, are mainly to provide research, but also to help growers navigate the very difficult and sometimes complicated obligations around compliance and meeting the needs of the markets internationally that demand that our products are grown applying the best practice available. My role in the organization as General Manager of Business Operations is to look after the day-to-day infrastructure needs that we have within FAR, but also to liaise with our research colleagues from other organizations, government sectors and private industry. It's really important for us in New Zealand as a small country to ensure that we have collaboration across all of these organizations to avoid duplication and to ensure that we are integrating well with the activities that other sectors undertake as well. So FAR's involvement with this project has been to provide some hopefully meaningful information regarding our sector in terms of size, locations, yields, and what the current best practice is. For us it is really important because we are trying to show that arable products can be grown in New Zealand in a sustainable and still profitable way by using the minimum necessary requirements to achieve good yields, but also looking ahead, thinking about what a climate change scenario might look like for New Zealand, is seeing how we can integrate some of our crops with other pastoral and horticultural systems within New Zealand going forward. So in terms of wheat production, over the past few years with the COVID pandemic and more recently with the war in the Ukraine, it has shown us how exposed we can be to the international markets when relying on imported grain for our needs. So one of the solutions that would be good for New Zealand to be more self-reliant, but also to integrate systems within arable and livestock sectors, would be to grow more wheat in New Zealand. The shortfall at this stage is probably around 230,000 tons of grain that would need to be grown, and that would equate to maybe 25,000 hectares of wheat to be grown across the country, which is not impossible. New Zealand was self-sufficient in wheat until the early 90s, so it is perfectly achievable that we could do this again if we had some land use change in a small way to be able to grow wheat in regions that we don't normally grow it, or even increase the amount of wheat grown in the traditional arable areas. In terms of the environmental impacts of the arable sector, FAR is working very hard on this. We have a dedicated team of environmental researchers within the organization and trying to understand what the impacts are, for example, from greenhouse gas emissions from our sector and in a typical arable rotation. But we believe, and we have had some research done already on this, that in improving animal diets with complementary feeds from arable products with a higher carbohydrate concentration and lower protein, there's an opportunity there to mitigate some of these negative environmental impacts that livestock is perceived to have at the moment. Hence we think, while there is no silver bullet, that introducing arable crops into those systems could be really solving part of that puzzle. So at the moment, much is being talked internationally about the advent of plant protein crops, and in particular food products made from protein crops. We are looking at two different aspects of this. One is, what new crops can we grow in New Zealand to cater for these needs? And secondly, what new products can be made from existing crops in New Zealand to cater for that plant protein market? We have been working closely through an SFFF project in developing a feasibility study to understand whether we could have the infrastructure in New Zealand to extract the protein fractions that are required for these ingredients. We know that we can grow protein crops, in particular legumes, successfully within New Zealand, and we have them within our rotation. It's just that traditionally the markets haven't been strong enough to make those crops particularly profitable. If new products can be developed and good relationships can be established between the end users and the growers, then we will have a very great opportunity to expand the use of protein crops within New Zealand. Any change or expansion in our sector, of course, comes with some challenges but also opportunities. New Zealand traditionally does not have a great deal of infrastructure set up in the regions for storage and transport of grain. There would definitely need to be investment and development of that infrastructure. But in saying that, the opportunities to create more resilience across the agricultural industry by having a wider set of products to be produced and sold and exported is a huge opportunity for New Zealand to not be so reliant on one product alone when we're looking at exports and have a greater diversity.